The Best of Our Knowledge explores topics on learning, education, and research. Coming up, beyond teaching a life-saving skill, competitive swimming can forge lifelong bonds. We'll visit a club swim team in the Hudson Valley. A college in Colorado offers a unique major in adventure education. And a student research project at the University of West Florida is shining a light to help detect Alzheimer's disease. I'm Lucas Willard, host of The Best of Our Knowledge. You are listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm Lucas Willard. Whether you're a child or an adult, knowing how to swim can save your life. Some leaders in government want to make water safety a priority. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, as part of her annual state budget plan, has proposed millions of dollars to expand access to safe swimming, boost free learn-to-swim programs, and expand municipal pools. Swim clubs not only teach a lifelong skill, but also serve as a place where young people learn valuable life lessons and develop camaraderie among their peers. I visited the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester in the lower Hudson Valley to meet members of the Marlins swim team. It's February break, but while schools are empty, the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester is packed. At the Mount Kisco facility's pool room, about 24 are swimming laps. Zach Honacki is head coach of the Marlins swim team.
So really this facility is operating through most of the day, starting as early as 5:30 in the morning. I was here at 5:30 this morning, as late as 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Honacki comes from a swimming background. His mother is an Olympic medalist, and his parents run a competitive swim program in Arizona. It's that passion, he says, that pushed him to become a coach. Being involved from such a young age, he says, also helps him relate to new swimmers from a coach's perspective.
It can be very valuable to just share with a kid. You know what? Like, I know in your eyes, I'm an adult and I'm a coach, and you can't even imagine me like being a kid or being vulnerable, but this is a moment where I failed, or this is a moment where I didn't feel good about myself, or I struggled through something, and this is how I navigated it, and this is how I came out better for it. And I do think that that's one of the most meaningful things that a coach can do for an athlete.
The Marlins are a club team, which Honacki says is more intense than a typical school program. For one, it's year-round, but it's also something young athletes might be a part of for 10 years or more. 14-year-old Natalie Lovig has been swimming competitively since third grade.
When I was younger, I did a lot of different sports like basketball, lacrosse, soccer, and swimming. So I definitely had an interest in sports, but the one sport that's always stuck with me is swimming.
For many swimmers, including Lovig, the sport can be a solitary one. But she says there's something to take away from a contest that's often between you and the clock on the wall.
The only person you can really focus on is yourself. Like, you can't waste energy on your time or like how other people are doing. And that's like that. I think that helps me with a lot of different things in life too, like in school and just like with social skills in general.
16-year-old Grace Gerosa has also been a lifelong swimmer.
I think when I was little, it was mostly just my friends and the fun I had here. And then when I was older, it was just a sense of I've always came here and I love it.
Gerosa says for her, swimming is about being confident and consistent.
There are days you're going to wake up and be exhausted, or you're going to have other opportunities, and you really have to decide if you want swimming to be a part of your life.
While a swimmer is alone in their own lane, Gerosa is happy to know her friends are cheering her on. She also participates in the club's Big and Little Marlins mentoring program.
Because obviously you have your friends your age, but it's good to see different age cohorts, like a role model sort of.
18-year-old Marlin, Paige Fagan, says she wouldn't be able to train and compete in such an individualistic sport if not for the people around her.
And you can obviously tell that these people, they want to be here. It's not like they have to. They want to come in every day, they want to say hi to you, and they want to talk to you. And it's just such a fun place to be, and it really has helped me grow.
In addition to swimming, Fagan works at the club as a water safety instructor, a summer lifeguard, and an occasional volunteer. Fagan says swimming has helped her become more confident in the way she speaks, and that's valuable for teaching swim lessons, including when teaching the strokes that were personally challenging.
So breaststroke, the way they teach it, it can be a lot difficult for kids, and I've made it into, like, I like to say, it's like you make a heart and break a heart with your arms, and kids find that hilarious, and it gets them to think about their arms and do it the right way instead of like the traditional sense I was taught with. People are like, oh, but they would find that too funny. I'm like, yeah, but if they find it funny, it sticks in their head and they think about it every time they swim.
Fagan says swimming helped her deal with anxiety and stress during the pandemic, and she wants to carry that with her to college next year.
I will take that as a way to just take some time to myself and to decompress from the whole day and take everything in.
The BGC NW Marlins swim team boasts a long list of Hall of Famers who've continued at the college level, and some who have gone on to train for the Olympics. Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester CEO Eliza Ozer said the swim team is also unique for its diversity.
For 2 years in a row, we've had over 50% of the swim team members self-identifying as non-white, in a sport that historically had been predominantly a sport of white swimmers. And people wouldn't necessarily understand this, but swimming is a very expensive sport. There's a lot of travel involved relative to competition. You have to be able to sustain and support and subsidize a pool. You know, many of our swimmers are on scholarship in many different ways, but then you also need a diverse pipeline of kids to be able to be strong enough swimmers to be on a competitive swim team.
The club welcomes more than 1,000 kids each year, and swimming is a part of the experience for its youngest members. Ozer said this past September, 3 of the Boys and Girls Club's preschool classrooms did not have a child who spoke a word of English.
Very diverse group, and now they're like little fish, because it's a preschool program where they have swimming twice a week. And all of our after-school programming kids who otherwise would not have the opportunity to learn to swim are swimming within the pool, to such an extent that our swim team has to swim outside of the pool in the summer so that we have access to the pool, so that we've got approximately 350 kids in the summer learning to swim.
Ozer said the swim team serves as more than a sport, it's a pathway to higher education.
So many of our members here are first gens for college, and to be able to be part of the swim world is really important, even if they're not swimming in college. What they're learning about is, supporting the people on their team, all kinds of important, lessons relative to discipline.
The Marlins are an anchor for many. Aquatics director Eric Mitchell swam here from ages 7 to 17. After pursuing a career in aquatics, he returned to Mount Kisco about 5 years ago. He's now 43.
I'm doing a special job. I know a lot of people in their careers are going to work every day, doing their job, but I feel like mine is particularly impactful.
Mitchell says he takes particular pride in teaching skills, but also in training lifeguards, as one example, in helping young people find employment to support themselves.
If they do come back one day, that's the full circle, right? They learn how to swim here, or they get hooked into some kind of program as a kid, and then at some point they're an employee or a board member or parent of a current learn to swim kid or swim team member. That's kind of the vision and the long-term plan every time a kid registers.
The pool at the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester is named after longtime former aquatics director and Mitchell's predecessor, Dennis Munson. He's still here, as he has been for 56 years. Munson, age 73, began teaching swimmers when he was a teenager.
I started teaching the little kids strokes and stuff like that. I was only like 15, 16, and then it just kind of grew, and next thing I know, they were like, hey, start teaching lessons, start working with kids with disabilities. I started doing that, and then it became more and more enjoyable, and next thing I know, I was hooked. I was living here.
For Munson, there's one important reason why everyone at any age should learn to swim.
You never know when something's going to happen. Parents will say to me, well, I don't know how to swim, but it doesn't really matter. I said, yeah, but you have kids, and if your kids fall in the water, are you going to just stand there and look at them if they're in trouble? Or are you going to jump in? If you can't swim, all you are is another person to rescue. You want to get your kids involved and start young. And it's just something you can do for life. It's a lifelong exercise. If your knees start to go, you can still get in a pool.
You're listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. I'm Lucas Willard. Who doesn't love an adventure? Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, is one of only a handful of campuses nationally that offers a major in adventure education. Students can take courses on mountaineering, rock climbing, and avalanche rescue. The Best of Our Knowledge's Jody Cowan spoke with Aaron Bell, Operational Coordinator and Senior Lecturer of Adventure Education, to learn more.
I mean, it's about interacting with humans, your interpersonal skills, your ability to facilitate groups, your ability to control a group, to the leadership abilities that you get from these. We've got folks who work in the military or as civilians who lead our active military personnel on recreational trips when they're not on duty. It's a job that people have. We have someone in Germany right now who teaches those. We have people who are engaged in the school districts who are teaching. We've got a student up in Silverton School who teaches outdoor education for the purpose of human development, and they're learning about students are learning about themselves and how to be a better student, how to be a better person, how to interact with their peers better. We have people who worked in wilderness therapy, dealing more with behavioral issues and students who are really struggle with behavioral issues, and doing not necessarily therapy, but therapeutic type work with people who are struggling in life with kind of making it. We have people who've gone on to be guides and have made a full career out of guiding internationally. But then we've also had people who've bank managers who've gone on and aren't working in our field, but all the things that they've learned provided them the skills that they are then moving into really good positions in other disciplines.
And one of these courses that I know you were really instrumental in bringing to the program is this avalanche rescue course. How did this course come to be a part of this program?
So I've been involved with avalanche education and avalanche work, I guess, as a practitioner since the late 90s. And it's intriguing. It's a big discipline. And there's a lot of physical science, how does snow work? How do avalanches happen? What are some of the forecasting, et cetera? But I'm about taking people into these hazardous environments and learning how to manage people through those terrains, but also hopefully being an educator and helping people understand how to manage the terrain on their own as well. I looked around the U.S. Montana State has a snow science program. It's physical sciences based. There's a snow science option in the outdoor studies up in Alaska Pacific University. And then there's one other place that's out of CMC, Colorado Mountain College, out of Leadville, sorry. But that's a non-degree seeking. So people who go there they're not going for 4 years. So I was just hey, I think we got all the pieces fit. We got the place, we got the faculty, and there's potentially needs. So we just put this together very mindfully and very thoughtfully. And I think it's awesome. I mean, they end up coming out of this course. I've talked with a lot of professionals in the field and students will emerge from this program having what's called a professional level 1 avalanche certificate that gets people in the door. A lot of folks, that is the entryway into a lot of these disciplines, but they will have gotten there through some really, I'm teaching a class right now. It's what's called Advanced Winter Backcountry Travel and Management. And so they've taken these recreational level avalanche education courses already. They're taking this 4-credit science class with a long lab. And then they're in this class to talk about hey, how do we plan for and then manage other people in a backcountry winter setting in avalanche terrain. And it's going to involve management techniques, but it's also going to involve more rescue techniques. We're going to be working with sled rescue, learning about hazard assessments and how to do our own hazard assessments for avalanche hazard. Because there is a lot of there's some trickiness with avalanches and uncertainty that's involved with it, including the high risk, maybe making the wrong judgment about a particular slope. And so there's just a lot of nuanced stuff that's really exciting. So they're going to have those before they even go into the pro level class. And there's 100 hours of practicum requirements. So it's kind of like a mini internship where they'll be placed with a local operation in the area, whether it's a ski patrol, operation or cats. We've got numerous cat skiing operations. We've got the forecasters that are here. We've got guide services that are here. And so these students will be in these operations where they get to like be in the operation with them, seeing how things work in those fields and really getting that hands-on experience as part of their culmination as they're doing their Pro 1. So I'm really excited about it.
When I think about avalanche rescue, St. Bernards come to mind, right? Is there any inclusion of St. Bernards or dogs in the course as it is now?
That's a great question. Not really. So one of our graduates, actually, he's the ski patrol director for Purgatory Ski Area. He was a adventure education grad, but he owns a dog, a rescue dog. So the dog is kind of the key piece, right? They're the things that they're the animal that goes out and does the searching. So there's a ton of training, and it's the relationship also between the dog and the owner that has this working relationship. And so there's so much that goes into that probably wouldn't work well with a college level setting. It's certainly cool work. I've been part of the trainings where they'll take a human, because they got to smell a person. And so what you do is you bury a big hole in this big field of snow, and then you bury the person alive. But then you give them a radio and an oxygen mask, and you give them a space so that they can be in. And then the dog then will find them from their scent. And it's pretty cool to be a part of that. But a lot of ski areas will have dog programs, and they'll have dogs basically sitting and ready to respond in case of an incident. But they all have their own handlers, right? They all have their own dog handlers. So
a bit of a different discipline there.
Yeah, a different track. Yeah.
Looking at higher global temperature warming, across the planet, which is kind of an increasing trend, and this year was kind of the highest on record. Are you looking at climate change and its effects on the prevalence of avalanches? Is that something that's included in the coursework?
It's not included in the coursework, but that's certainly a discussion that's oftentimes had in our field. There are these what are called snow and avalanche workshops, and they're one-day workshops that are held around the U.S. But Colorado has one, and it's in October. And this climatologist was speaking. He said basically the take-home point is winter is leaving. The winter is becoming less and less. The warmth of the seasons are eating into the edges of the winter seasons, and it's affecting our industry in a lot of different ways. Ski areas are struggling with this actually quite a bit right now, because if you've noticed, I don't know if you're familiar with ski areas development, but what they're doing now is they're building bike parks at ski areas, like mountain bike parks, where you can go ride the lifts and carry your mountain bike, and then you ride down. And it's because the ski season has shrunk so much that it's eating into their profits, and they can't how do they maintain a profit when the winter season has shrunk so much? So they're really trying to diversify. And that's just from a ski area perspective. But then you think about other types of programs, guiding services, cat skiing operations. The whole industry's got to shift.
What's something from the course, either this past semester or going into this next one, that you're most excited about for this year?
I'm really excited about this class, the Advanced Winter Backcountry Travel class. Avalanches are unique in a lot of ways, in the sense that there is so much uncertainty involved with it, and making a wrong decision can result in death. And so there's so many human variables that go into that, and understanding the decision making that has to happen in order to effectively and safely manage people through those terrain. It's not just hey, if A plus B equals C, it's wow, there's so many variables that you have to consider. And in the end, you got to also be willing to say oh, I don't know. There's too much uncertainty. Will this slide? So therefore I'm going to avoid it. They call this a wicked learning environment. It's also been called a naturalistic environment, where there's a lot of competing goals and unknowns, teaching these people not just how to put on their skis and skin around the mountains and ski in the mountains. You're teaching them about paying attention, being thoughtful, checking their own egos. And so that's intriguing to me. I like that.
That's Aaron Bell, Operational Coordinator and Senior Lecturer of Adventure Education at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, Speaking with the best of our knowledge is Jody Cowan. You're listening to The Best of Our Knowledge. A student capstone research project at the University of West Florida is literally shining a light to help detect Alzheimer's disease and other disorders. The Best of Our Knowledge host emeritus Bob Barrett reports.
The light comes from a set of pulsed medical LED goggles that were developed, researched, and designed by faculty and undergraduate students at UWF.
This device, we consider it to be an adaptive strobe where we use the presentation or the repeated presentation of a strobe flash to see how well the brain handles that information.
Dr. James Arruda is a professor in the Department of Psychology at UWF. He has been researching Alzheimer's and mild cognitive impairment for years.
This strobe that we've been working on could also be used for clinical work that's being done with seizure disorders, for the detection of seizure disorders. So there are likely research and also additional clinical applications associated with this device that we've been working on.
The project is a collaboration between Dr. Arruda in the Department of Psychology, Dr. Aaron Wade in the Department of Physics, and Dr. Mohammed Kabu in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at UWF.
It was very intense.
Sierra Couts is a recent UWF graduate with a degree in electrical engineering.
We had our fingers in everything in the circuit design and build, from soldering the smallest component to running 16 feet of wire through heat shrink tubing. Just the fact of it going towards helping people in the future, because I know family members and friends who've had family members that have had some sort of mental impairment, and knowing that this could potentially help them have better quality of life was really nice.
Just making any sort of difference, that's what we want to do as engineers, is just create products that will better other people's lives.
Mark Yepeshin is another recent UWF graduate with a degree in electrical engineering. He says that working with the brain was not quite what he expected when he majored in engineering.
I remember when I would tell my friends or family about this project, they would start asking me questions about the neuroscience part of the project, and I would say, no, that's not me. I'm just the circuitry.
But that's not really the whole story. Professor Arruda says these engineering students did a lot more for this project than just fiddle with some wires.
I know if you ask them, they'll say it wasn't that difficult or it was straightforward, but it was anything but, because it really involves LEDs that are able to produce specific wavelengths controlling the 4 different types of visual receptors within the eye. So that was one part. But then the other is to control the amount of energy, the specific amount of energy coming out of each one of them, the duration of that energy, but also timing it appropriately. And so they had to program a series of computer boards to be able to control these LEDs in a way that they had to be controlled. And so it was a big deal what they did.
So where does this project go from here? There is a working prototype of the goggles, and data will continue to be gathered. Without getting too deep into the technical and medical weeds, no device that works with the human brain can be a one-size-fits-all deal. In this case, people have different visual receptors in their brain that recognize light and color. Individual eyes filter light and color differently into the brain. These are factors that cause different reactions to different stimuli. In the end, Dr. Arruda sees this device as just one of many tools healthcare professionals can use in diagnosing dementia or seizure disorders.
Within the medical community, you'll never see just one test. Typically, there's a battery of tests. And so I can imagine that this would play a role as one part of a battery to help with what they call differential diagnosis.
Now that another semester is underway at UWF, the project will continue with new students stepping up to make new discoveries.
It's been great working with everyone. It's been a great collaboration. I think it's a very good example of how people do collaborate, students and faculty here at this university. There are some topics that one can do on one's own up to a point, but if you really want to knock it out of the park, you really do have to know your limitations and bring in people who are experts that you can collaborate with.
And from the student collaborator's viewpoint, letting go of this project will be tough.
I've mentioned to Dr. Aruda and Dr. Wade as well that if they would like anything from me in the future on this, that I'm more than happy to come back and help out.
Towards the end of the semester, I remember me and Sierra had a conversation where we were like, eventually we will have to let this project go.
Yeah, it won't be our baby forever.
Yeah.
Reporting for the Best of Our Knowledge, I'm Bob Barrett in Pensacola, Florida.
If you'd like to tell the best of our knowledge what you think, send us an email at knowledge@wamc.org. You can listen to the best of our knowledge anytime as a podcast, downloadable wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to catch up on past episodes or hear more WAMC National Productions programs on the news, academic study, books, women's issues, the media, and the environment, visit wamcpodcasts.org. This has been The Best of Our Knowledge, episode 1745. The Best of Our Knowledge is a national production of WAMC Northeast Public Radio. Thanks to associate producer Jody Cowan. The latest on all National Productions programs is available via the Airwaves newsletter and our flagship station's website, wamc.org. Until next time, I'm Lucas Willard.